Good day and welcome to a Life Emotion podcast, season 1, Awakening, episode 5. I can't believe that. And this episode is perfect because it's about having fun. I am absolutely having fun to even start with it in the beginning of a day here in Basel. And together with me, I have Chloe and Josephine, who are going to help me understanding and figuring out how we can integrate more fun into our lives and answer a very intriguing question. Is fun at work a productivity booster or a distraction? So, Chloe, would you mind introducing yourself to the audience?
Hello, I'm Chloe. I am in England, in the Southwest, in Devon, and I'm a coach. And this is really important to me because when I first started out, I knew that fun was important and that play was important. We weren't getting enough of it, but I didn't anticipate that my clients were going to realize that quite as quickly. So I thought we'd be talking about their goals and their dreams and barriers and all of that. And it usually came up in the first session, like, I'm just not having fun anymore. I don't do anything for fun. I'm so busy all the time working and caring for my family. And so it really shows me how important fun is. And then I think on my own journey as well, I've realized that the rest is just as important because we need, like, if we're tiring ourselves out working and playing all the time, then we also need to be making sure we're getting a rest and looking after ourselves. So I'm all about coaching people to find that perfect balance of work, rest, and play.
Yeah, and by the way, I know that it was pretty much here somewhere. Yes, see, for those that are
Yay.
interested, this is Chloe's book. And that's not how we got to know each other. It was over this beautiful place we call LinkedIn. And then at the time, I was going through the restructuring. I was leaving my old job at corporate, and Chloe was very kind to offer running a session, a coaching session with me to integrate fun into my new routine, let me call it like that. And it was such an insightful session that I thought, okay, I definitely need to have her here with us to talk about having fun today. Thank you so much, Chloe, for making part of it. Josephine, would you like to introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah, hi everyone. And I'm so happy to be here too, because when I quit my corporate job, which I also had held for almost 20 years, and I'm also in Switzerland, just like Eduardo is, the thing that actually brought me my first training after I quit my corporate job was a chief happiness officer training, because I had followed this happiness at work guru for a long time. And when I quit my job, the thing that people said to me is that I just wish I could do the same. And for me, it was like, a little bit like, I don't know, opening my eyes that we spend so much time at work and most of the people actually don't want to be there. And that just can't be it. Does that mean that we have to have fun at work, or does it mean that we need to have more joy at work? What does it actually mean? So that is not what I do today. I actually took a little bit of a different turn after it. So I'm currently a LinkedIn coach, and I help other business owners, coaches, service providers to actually grow their audiences on LinkedIn and to sell on LinkedIn. So that is what I do today. But I agree with Chloe and I agree with Eduardo. We need to have fun doing that too. So super happy to be here today.
Thank you so much, Josephine. And I don't remember exactly the message that connected us or the person that connected us, but I remember it was this very big event or a series of events challenges with Harrison that was sponsoring the video challenge. I think there are so many people that I've got to know through that experience, and we were exchanging a lot over there. Beyond all your very insightful tips on how to handle LinkedIn, by the way, you have a free training running this afternoon, which I'm so much looking forward to attend. I always got this sense, and I see the big smile right now, that it's not only business, like serious business, it's serious business. It's fun, it's light, it's inspiring, it's engaging, and this kind of attitude, this kind of mood, spirit is definitely what makes me way more integrated into LinkedIn and LinkedIn Live. So thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
And the team is having fun. Usually, when I start these sessions, I bring whatever the definition is about the team that I have in my book, A Life Emotion. But this time I cannot do that because I never defined it in the book. And I find it so insightful as I'm going through this that some concepts are more natural to explain through stories, through examples, through experiences, rather than hard definitions. Nevertheless, I thought, okay, what is a general definition of fun or having fun? And when you go to Oxford and try to seek for that, you're going to read, oh, it's enjoyment, or it's amusement, it's pleasure, or light-hearted pleasure. And I can agree with, to a degree, to some of these definitions, but they still don't connect with what I feel when I'm having fun. And Chloe, you have posted something recently about that, or in the same lines, and we were talking about how things make us feel versus what is the definition or external definitions of it. What would be your way to explain what having fun or what fun is?
So I think we can play by ourselves. So like we might play piano or painting or hula hooping. That's one of my hobbies. So we can play by ourselves, but I think real fun usually happens with other people. So there's a connection element to it. And I think there's something about that getting into that flow state where you lose track of time and you're not thinking about what's for dinner or, oh, I've got work tomorrow. Like, you're completely in what you're doing and just you're laughing and smiling. There's those kind of signs that you're having fun. But I think as well, when you're in a flow state, it's a bit like meditation. Like when you're really in it, you're not even aware that you're in it. So like you can only kind of recognize it as fun maybe with hindsight. Like at the time, you're too busy having fun to recognize that you're having fun.
Too busy having fun, yeah, definitely. And I love what you mentioned about the connection with other people, because it's very true, isn't it? Even when people try to simulate having fun online, you see a lot of kids gaming nowadays, and there are so many concerns around it. At the beginning, I thought, well, this is going to create an army of disconnected people that can only sit on their couches or sofas and play with themselves. That's not exactly what happened, is it? So people started finding these online communities, because even to play in the digital world, they have this need, this necessity of connection and doing that together with other human beings. And I find it absolutely fascinating. Josephine, what about you? How would you define having fun? What does it mean to you?
So I think, like so many other things, it's so subjective. Like thinking about a roller coaster, for example. I love a huge roller coaster, but my family, my sons and my husband, they are just horrified just by the thought of like riding on a roller coaster. So just because I think something is fun doesn't necessarily mean that my counterpart or someone else think it's fun too. And I think that is really important to remember, especially if we look at the workplace, right? Let's assume you have a leader that is a lot about, doing plays and games and things like that, but not every team member might appreciate that same type of fun. So I think it's really important to maybe sometimes tone down what's fun for someone, and maybe sometimes like tone up. I don't know if you can say that, but it's like to understand like what is fun for me. And that is why when I did this training as the Chief Happiness Officer training, there was one piece in the whole thing that really didn't make sense to me, because it was a lot about the team and doing this as a team and team and team the whole time. But we then also tend to forget about the individual, right? Like how does each individual play together so that it actually becomes fun? And if we look at our kids, excuse me, I remember once my oldest son came home very fast after having been on a play date with someone. I was like, why are you home so soon? No, it wasn't that fun, because we don't tick with everyone, right? And I think that is so important to remember. So fun can be fun, but not for everyone.
And not exactly the same fun, right? I was in a discussion recently. We are planning a business trip to a different country where the culture is not the same culture we experience here in Switzerland. And we were talking exactly about that, because we try to incorporate fun in some of the exercises that we run. And at the same time, it was like, how will these people feel about these exercises? Will they also experience that as fun, or maybe completely different, that they are going to feel pushed back or even challenged, right? Do you have some examples, Chloe, maybe of how you integrated fun with other clients and help them find that inspiration that clicked for them?
Yeah, so my business name is Hopscotch Coaching, and I met with, in fact, another podcast interview with somebody who was French. And she told me that she didn't know what hopscotch meant. So I'm going to start by explaining that. So it's a childhood game that we play kind of in primary school, where you chalk numbers onto the floor and jump and hop and jump on them and like throw stones and things. And so I have my own hopscotch model, and in that I'm getting people to stand up and move around and jump around maybe. And we're playing with sort of traveling through time, like in the future, what's your future self who's already achieved the thing want to do? So it's still coaching, but we're moving around and making it fun. And I think that little bit of awkwardness at the beginning when I asked them to stand up and like hop around or whatever, it really, there's that little bit of getting out of your comfort zone that I think is actually really important for fun. Like if you're just doing what you do all the time, it's not fun. You do that every day. Like even if it is what we would describe as a fun thing, if it's something you do all the time, it's probably lost its magic a little bit. So it's, I think there's something about breaking familiarity and doing something a little bit different. So my kind of motto in coaching is challenge plus fun equals growth, because if you're not getting a bit out of your comfort zone and challenging yourself, like why are you in coaching? But if it's not fun, you are going to give up when it gets hard. So it's really important to get that balance right and have a bit of silliness and laughter and, playing with different characters. So I use like the Inside Out film quite a lot and thinking about our emotions as characters and turning them into characters. Sometimes even like drawing pictures of those characters or using AI to create them. I think there's always room to bring fun into whatever you're doing. And like maybe even like the more boring and challenging the thing is, maybe it's even more important to bring that fun into it, because that's what's gonna keep you like awake and alert and focused and actually achieving something and not kind of getting lost in all the numbers or whatever it might be. So I think, yeah, fun is such an important element of what we do. And it's not something you can just like tack on at the end. It needs to be integrated into the project itself.
You open up so many avenues, Chloe. So insightful. Thank you. I was trying to connect here a couple of things that you said at the beginning when you mentioned things that we do on our own that eventually are not exactly fun, but provide a different experience, like playing the piano. And this is something I have been doing for 60 weeks now, according to my app. So it's like a long journey. And I have done it when I was a kid for like 6 months, and honestly didn't progress much. I could move my fingers, play maybe a couple songs, and that was all. And I noticed that as I got back into it, and this time I wasn't using a formal teacher with the rigidity of you have to move your fingers like this or like that and do this exercise and that. I all of a sudden felt way more engaged, and I was literally having fun. And to your point on doing it with other people, I feel what really moved me into that was that I wasn't alone. I was doing it and my daughter was doing it. So there was a little bit of the fun competition and trying to discover together, exchanging. And without that fun element, I know again from my own personal history that I would probably have given up. I'm not a natural born musician. I am not trying to develop a career there, but I still can learn and I still can develop when fun is part of that experience. So thank you so much for bringing that up. I
I
felt
think
really
as well,
connected there.
just to on your point there, I think that we've got to a point where we think everything should be monetized, and
Mhm.
that if you're learning a new skill, that it should be because you want to start a business or get a new career in it. And then again, that's like ripping all of the fun out and joy out of it, isn't it? Like we should be doing it just because we enjoy doing it. That should be enough.
I absolutely love that thought, and that is a little bit how I see work as well. We do work that is inspiring to us, and that makes it so much easier because it's fun. Josephine, what do you think, or what other examples could you integrate here for us on how you are doing it?
Before I go into that, I would actually like to hear from you, Eduardo. What was it that inspired you to start playing the piano again? Like, what was the motivation?
Chloe,
Okay.
Just to make it a little bit more expanded than that, we had our session and we were talking about how to integrate it, and I opened up a million of ideas, a little bit like a mind map, things that I would feel could be fun. And at the same time, this doesn't really have too much to do with having fun, but it's maybe how we put things together. My daughter was struggling with oboe. If you know that instrument, it's not very easy to play and it takes like forever for you to develop and play anything with it, you know? So she wasn't having fun with it. And she had seen pianos before and she thought at first to play the piano, but then she didn't really like the teacher. And you know, when all these things click, okay, if we could make this in a way that is fun for her, then maybe she would be incentivized to play. And wait a minute, it's something that I also have in my list here. So instead of investing in these classes that are not leading her anywhere and wasting time, money, effort, what if I would invest the same money into a real piano and just have it here by her place? And it was honestly one of the best return on investments I have done in my entire life. It paid itself just with all her classes. But then when we have friends over, very often it happened that the kids, they come and they also want to play a little bit and they know how to play. And then they have fun. And then the entire house is having fun because it's integrated. And then the same with adults. Sometimes they come and then they want to ask questions. Okay, how do you play? How are you learning? And that creates a completely different environment. And I see from what Chloe said, fun is when we do it together. That's a connection. That's a connector, and that's how it came to happen.
Yeah, I really love that. And to go back to your question, what it means to me. So when I quit my corporate job, as I mentioned, I'd been there for almost 20 years. And for me, it was also as if I had lost my whole creativity. It was as in banking, so it was very analytical, very strict, very male dominated. And I was standing at the airport, and I remember I had quit my job, and there were 12 weeks or something until the year end when I would have my last day at work. And I saw this book at the airport, and it was Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way. And I see, Chloe, you know the book. And I grabbed the book because there was a woman who was ahead of me, and she grabbed two of that book. And I was like, if she grabs two of them, it must be really, really good. So I grabbed one book for myself and I started reading it. And in that book, it was, strangely enough, it was exactly like a 10 or 12-week program in that book that would be for me if I followed the steps and by the 31st of December. So for me, that was like, oh my gosh, I really need to do this. And I can't say that I like did everything, like exactly everything in the book. But one thing that I took away from the book was to create what I call my fun-tastic list. And it was to create a list of 10 things that you would just like to experience. Like it can be anything and everything, things that you have wanted to do for a long time, but you've put aside. It can be skydiving. It can be inline skating. For me, it was to sing in a choir, or it was actually to just run in the forest or go to the movies with my husband or travel to Scotland. And it took me 2 years or something like that to tick off the things I had on my list, including being in a flash dance. And the thing about the flash dance is like, I thought in my head that I had written down to be in a flash dance. Turns out that I hadn't. You know, sometimes our mind plays a little bit of a games for us. And we were in this amusement park and they were like inviting people to come into a line dance. And I mentioned my family before who thought it was like really horrible to do the roller coasters. Well, they're not much for dancing in public either. But I was like, this is my flash dance moment. I need to do this. So I jumped on there on this kind of like stage with everyone else. I wasn't doing it alone. And I was like, this is on my fantastic list. And I'm confident that if I hadn't put it on my fantastic list, I wouldn't even have seen that moment as one of those moments. And when I came back home and I checked my list, and it didn't say flash dance. It just said, I want to dance with loads of other doing the same kind of movements like everyone else. So that is kind of how powerful it can be. And Chloe, you could probably testify to this too, that when you put something down in writing, the probability that it actually will come true is 40% higher than just, not doing it at all.
Mhm.
So that was, so create your fantastic list moments, experiences, and then just go out and do them. And I think that will create so much fun in your life.
Chloe, I feel like you want to add something.
I think as well, there's something in, or just a first one for when you're writing things down like that. If you do it by hand rather than typing, it's even more likely. But I think, like, we all probably practice gratitude, and most people are aware of that, but you can apply the same logic. So at the end of each day, you can ask, like, what did I do today that was creative? What did I do today that was fun? And it trains your brain to look for it, because we are doing fun, creative, playful things every day. And it's about recognizing being creative doesn't mean you have to paint a masterpiece or write a book. It can be that you try a new recipe, or you decorated your kid's birthday cake, or that you wore an outfit that you'd never put together before. You did your makeup differently. Like, it doesn't have to be anything grand. It doesn't have to be something that you could monetize. It can just be something that you did just because it made you feel good. Like maybe you bought a new cushion or a new candle for your house. So, but just taking that bit of time at the end of the day, like, what did I do today that was creative, to start taking on that identity as a creative person or a fun person or whatever it is that you want to be more of.
This connects so nicely with what you said before, that it resonates with me as well. That we try too hard at times to do things because of outcomes, and here I'm saying outcomes in general, right? Often because of money. I'm going to do this because I can monetize it later, but sometimes also because you see a final product, or I'm seeing myself playing the piano in the grand hall here in the townhouse. No, right? It's about the process and the experience that we have in the process. That's where the fun is. The fun is not in the end state. Then the fun is probably already over, and there is nothing to be experienced there anymore, is it?
Yeah. As soon as there's any kind of pressure on it, it stops. If you are like, you had to practice perfectly that exact piece to go and perform, you might have enjoyed that, but it's a different type of fun, isn't it? And that goal is never enough. Then you want the next one.
Love it. Love it. A lot of people ask where seriousness comes into the picture, and that is this question: is fun at work, now being very specific, a productivity booster, or is it a distraction? I'm curious to hear how you feel about that, and maybe starting with Josephine, because we share this living corporate experience, and then about what some people in the audience may be feeling right now.
Yeah, so I am 100% believer that happy people at work, they do perform better. That doesn't mean that we are always happy, because we can't always be like on a high. That would be exhausting, right? But if we are like in an environment where we feel appreciated, where we feel heard, where we feel that what I say is actually taken seriously, where we feel that it's okay to make mistakes, and where you go in the morning, you open up your laptop or you walk into the office or whatever it might be, and you're like, yes, this is it. And again, it doesn't mean that you will do that every single day, but if the majority of the days are like that, then I am 100% certain that we do perform way better, both as individuals, but also as teams, because it creates a different environment where you don't have these types of inner circles of trust, but you have a more integrative environment. And can that be created? And I think it absolutely can. And it's so depending on the leader, like who is the leader of the pack and what is the culture that they bring into the teams, right? If you have a leader that is, doing these types of inner circles of trust and where everyone else is excluded, if you have a leader where like shouts around, I've been in those environments where you've been shouted at, where, when you picked up the phone and there was someone shouting at you at the end. Well, that creates a horrible environment. And if you are in a welcoming environment where it's okay to disagree, then that is a fun environment. That doesn't mean that we, walk into the room with funny hats or making silly things or anything like that. It just creates a different vibe and a different culture. 100%. No one can get me to think differently, honestly.
Love it, Josephine. Before I add anything into it, what do you think, Chloe? What have you observed, and what are ways that we can bring that seriousness together with the fun?
So I think that so where you talk about like some of those work environments where you're like constantly in a state of fear. You're worried you're going to get something wrong, you're going to be shouted at, you might get fired, whatever it might be. I think that safety is necessary to have fun, because you need to be feeling relaxed and safe, because having fun and being playful can be quite vulnerable. And especially in a workplace, if you're worried that you let something slip, like you say something in the moment that you then regret, like, so safety is so important. So that, like you're saying, the inner circle of trust, that's already, you're breaking the kind of ability for it to feel like a fun and safe place. And then you get into it feeling like organized fun, which everybody hates. Um, but I have never worked in a corporate environment. So I've always worked in charities. And so I think in corporate, there's this belief that it's transactional. You give them your time and they give you money, and that's the deal. And it's going to be boring and it's going to be hard. And sometimes you're going to get told off, but you get paid at the end of it. In the charity sector, it's, lower salaries or your volunteers. And a massive part of your payment is that it's fun, it's flexible,
Mm.
it's fulfilling. And so that's what I've always worked in. And so fun has always been part of what we've done. But that said, there's always, you're always going to have like a bad leader or a team of people that don't quite get on. Like there's always going to be moments where it's not like that. Certainly the expectation is different. The transaction looks different, and we expect fun. If you're working in a charity, you expect it to be fun. You expect it to be fulfilling. You expect to be able to go and pick your kids up from school or go to their school play. Like, there's a different kind of tone to the transaction, I suppose.
I can feel that I never experienced that specifically, but I have taken up a new job as a junior football coach here in the town where I live. So basically, my son asked me, and my wife asked me as well, and then I decided to step up. And that's in a sense just voluntary work, right? I'm volunteering there, and I spend 7 to 9 hours with the boys every week, a couple trainings, a play, a match, and what I have observed is first we need to take it seriously still because they are supposed to be a team and they are supposed to perform and develop individually and all these beautiful things that we also have in corporate. But at the same time, they absolutely must have fun. If they are not having fun, two things: first, they are not going to come; second, they are not going to perform. And it has been so insightful in the sense that they think the seriousness and the fun can definitely coexist, while at the same time realizing that the balance is completely depending on the leadership. And here I would say, yeah, I have failed quite a lot on these first few trainings and experiences, leaning either towards one side too much or the other side too much. How do we strike a balance?
I think you have to remember as well, you don't perform football, you play football. Like it's in there. It's in it's in the title, like it is supposed to be fun. Even when you're like soaking wet and muddy and losing, there should still be an element of fun to it. So I don't do any sports. So but I know with my running, I actually, so I ran a marathon back in 2019. I'm not a runner or an exerciser particularly, but I know a big part. So you go on all these long runs and you're going out early in the morning and it's really hard and it's boring, but you bring some fun to it by listening to music that you love. And I actually found, so interval training sounds horrendous and horrible and really hard, and it is, but if you do it with a friend and you turn into sprinting races,
Uh-huh.
it suddenly becomes fun. Or if when you're doing the exercises, if you're doing like star jumps and things like that, and just mixing it up and trying to bring a bit more fun into it and gamifying it. Like when I get, even just when I get to that lamppost, I'm going to like have a gel, or I'm going to walk for 3 minutes as a little reward. So like gamifying everything that you do as much as possible, I think is even if that is just the absolute pleasure of ticking things off a to-do list.
Hmm.
Like that, I find that fun anyway. I'm sure not everyone does, but writing a to-do list and being able to tick those things off, that gives you that little dopamine hit, and makes, even if it was a really boring, difficult task, it gives you that dopamine hit anyway.
You talked about competition, and then you led us into gamification, which is something that got so popular, and not because it's not working, right? Because it's rather very effective. It's conducive to adherence and to performance at the same time. I know coming from pharma that certain studies even used it as a strategy to engage patients and make sure that they would stick to treatments and really aiming for their well-being. And I am puzzled then at times when I hear leaders or managers considering that this gaming, this competition element is going to detract or reduce the performance rather than increase and enhance it, right? It's really a puzzle to me. Josephine, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, now that we're talking a little bit about learning, right? So we moved, workspace to learning. And I think that is also so important to remember. So when learning becomes mandatory, be it in school or be it in a corporate environment, I guess you probably have some of those mandatory trainings in charity too. It becomes a chore and it's hard and it's not so fun then. But if it makes it more kind of like you learn for the sake of learning, or, I think that is so important because we'll learn much easier than what we do when it's mandatory, when we have to learn. And in the banking environment, it was obviously was for regulatory purposes, to be able to show the check marks that the employees had done the learning. But I think it can be done differently. I'm not that invested in that business any longer, but I'm so glad I'm out of it, to be honest, because now I get to learn for the sake of learning. And I love learning, and I learn so much every single day. And I learn by being here with you guys today. There is always something to take away from these things. And I think if I would go back, or if I could turn back time, I think that if, I hadn't, what we did was like, oh, shoot, I need to do this dang mandatory learning. And then you're like pushing it out until the last day. Then it becomes a pressure too. So it's like what Chloe said before about the safety. And then if we add pressure to it too, then the fun just drops down to the bottom of that list, right? So if we push down or if we make things safe and we make it less pressure, then I think fun, actually something that didn't seem that fun before, becomes a little bit more fun. I don't know if that makes sense, but I hope it does.
It makes absolute sense. I remember it was a little bit of a compliant environment, right, with pharma. So you had to have the records of everything and evidence of everything, especially when it comes to quality trainings. And what really happened on the ground, and it's a shame that everybody knows it and nobody does anything about it, is that people would scroll through PDF documents and sign them, or have a web-based train where they would just move next, next, next until they could hit to the finish and move forward. That's not elevating quality. That's not learning anything. That's not effective. That is waste of investment that in the end detract from the company, from money that could be reinvested into development, into research, into access, so many more important things for the patient. And the companies that challenged that model just a tiny little bit and introduced fun into the process already got the results, right? They were capable of reducing the time that these trainings were taken while increasing the engagement. And a lot of it was done through gamification and making it something that people would even talk to each other about, back to Chloe's point, in integrating a human being or human beings that are participating in that experience together, and that made it fun. That's such a simple breakthrough, not really rocket science, and it's available to anybody that wants to invest into that direction. Chloe, I know that you have a lot of experience when it comes to learning, and maybe you want to share something from that angle.
Yeah, so I think that like with training things, so often you're doing the training because you have to tick the box to say you've done the training, and not because you want to learn that thing or you need to learn that thing or it's been updated. And I think the same with appraisals. So people dread appraisals. Lots of people see it as a tick box exercise. And I mean, I love appraisals, whichever side of them I'm on, like, because they should be, this is your chance to go and tell your boss what you enjoy about your job, like what you would love to do next year, how you want to develop. Like, it's such an opportunity to just go and have that dedicated time that's all about you from your perspective. So it's not your boss telling you like you've done this wrong. And it's an appraisal is such a great opportunity, and so many people, it's the fear thing again. They don't feel safe. They're so worried that they're just going to be told off, that they're not meeting their targets, they're going to get fired, they're going to get put on probation. So people enter their appraisal from a place of fear. The bosses enter those appraisals often from a place of, I've got to tick this box, this is a pain, this is taking up my time. If you both go into that appraisal ready to learn and have some fun, and like, what ideas can you come up with that for the next year or the next 6 months or however you do it, they can be such a, like, I love appraisals. I think they're such an opportunity. And I think that they are so undervalued by both sides. They are such an opportunity for the individual to develop in the way that they want to, for the company to get new ideas and to get the best out of their team. And we just waste them. But they become a tick box exercise in so many organizations, and it's such a loss.
They are indeed a checkbox organization, and I'm just reflecting. This is not something I thought about before. But thanks for the inspiration, Chloe. As it's also seen as a one-time event, and how that's absolutely not helpful. One thing that I noticed, unfortunately, later in my career, otherwise I would have helped other people in the way, was that they were waiting this once a year, maximum twice a year opportunity to sit with their managers and talk to them. It's human beings that are connected with you the entire year. You're supposed to be doing things together. And yes, there are business meetings and review meetings and weekly meetings, all the seriousness things built into that, where maybe there isn't this space to have that much fun because of the environment, because of the context. But I always had lunches and coffees with my bosses, with my managers. So when it was time to get down to business, and that includes appraisal and performance, it was never a heavy situation where I felt like, who is this other person that is sitting together with me here, and what is that? What's that they think? How's that they live? What's important for them? No, I knew all of that because we were having fun conversations over coffee and lunch and outside of work, whatever it is. And I feel it made a huge difference in my experiences with my managers, even when I compare the same manager hearing from peers and colleagues that had a completely different perception of how it was to work with them and with these performance reviews. Was it the same for you, Josephine? How do you see that?
Yeah, I'm like many others. I have a little bit of a traumatic experience from these appraisals or these performance reviews and things like that, because I think it's like, you have this, some organizations do them quarterly, some organizations, we did it in the bank annually. I think it was maybe biannually, I can't remember. And it was like, you have to bring up something, doesn't matter what it is, and they could bring up something that happened, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 months ago, and then it's like the feedback loop is totally missed, right? And then what you also have in these large organizations is forced ranking. So independently, if you thought that your employee was a great employee, you had to force rank them, right? So it's like, it all becomes a little bit, just like Chloe said, it's a tick the box exercise, and it's not really good for anyone. I understand that it's really, really, really difficult in large organizations to do this efficiently and effectively. But I think it can be done better and also more human, right? So, and there are always people trying to, impact the game or impact the rules in a negative way, and there are people who tries to impact the rules in a positive way. So it's like you have both sides of this. Can we make this exercise fun and exciting? Honestly, don't know, because I think it really depends on your experience. Like you said, you had a great experience with your bosses. I had that too, but when it came to the performance discussion, they were like old stuff dug out. So like, for example, I got to hear "you're too direct," and the first time I heard it was like, what do you mean? Like, I don't understand. I'll say it the next time you are too direct, which made me even more insecure, right? And then this next year, I got the same feedback, and I was like, well, this time I'd really like to get a proper example. Like, what do you mean by that? When was I too direct? Again, same thing. Oh, I'll let you know the next time. So it's like digging out things that they might have heard someone say, but they couldn't really put a finger on it, right? So I think these whole appraisals, the performance reviews and things like that, it's not really working, and it's not fun. either. That's just my personal opinion.
So,
No, you.
yeah, I think if you're on the appraiser side of it, I think the situation behavior impact model is such a useful one. So you
Mhm.
say the specific example, the specific time and what was going on, and then what the person did, and then the impact of that. And the idea is you don't give any judgments, you don't give any advice, you let them sit with it and think about because they might have. So instead of going, because it's so awkward, isn't it, when the person keeps going on and on about it, and you're like, yeah, I get the message. I'm just really embarrassed. I just want to go and hide. So instead of doing that, you're pointing out the specific situation so they can really reflect on it, and then it might be something they were already aware of and they're already dealing with, they're already thinking about. It might be something they're like, oh, okay, yeah, so I could do this next time, but not giving the judgment and advice, but just pointing out the moment and not waiting for 9 months to do it. Do it at the time, because 9 months later, you're probably not like that anymore. You've probably changed, or it's got a lot worse. So it's too late. You need to raise it when it happens. And I think it might, as a manager myself, I would always do appraisals as this is your opportunity to tell me things, not I'm going to tell you things as they happen and as we go. This is your space to raise whatever you want to. And I think the performance review, they need to be kept separate, don't they? They're not the same. They're not the same conversation, but they do get lumped into it quite often.
Not, they are not. Sometimes what I feel, in coming back to the fun, is that we call it conversations, and conversations are fun. When I'm sitting with my friends and we're talking about pretty much anything, even topics I don't like, we manage to have fun with it. These conversations are very often one direction. That's not a conversation at all. That's a monologue, isn't it? Which is also fair if you want to establish as a process that you have a performance report, not a conversation, and you just want to deliver what was observed. Fair game, right? But if you want to have it as back to the learning aspect of the things, if you want to have it as a learning experience that moves people to growth, that moves them into performance and increased performance, that should be the best for the organization, then a conversation is more effective. And a conversation that is fun is way more effective, because also we are going to remember that conversation for much longer times. I definitely see it, as you both have established, from what is reality currently, what is mostly experience, and how this could be. What are the possibilities? Absolutely love that.
And I mean, to be fair, I mean, we are all here trained as coaches, right? And it's also when I was in corporate, I wasn't trained as a coach. None of my managers were trained as coaches. So coming back to what Chloe said about not being judgmental, to pick it up right there, to listen to all of these things, that is usually not part of the corporate world, because that has not yet been integrated in the corporate world, right? So I think it's sitting here judging about the process that I was in 5, 6, 7 years ago. I'm no longer I shouldn't even talk about that any longer, because it might have changed. What do I know? I have no clue. I'm no longer there, right? But the importance is to remember that having fun doesn't necessarily mean that, everyone has fun. And it also means to make a safe environment, no judgmental, and like Chloe said, also to make it timely. We can't wait 15 months to say something that someone might have seen that popped up in a discussion sometime, right? That's not fun.
It's not.
Absolutely. I see a connection here. Yesterday, we were talking, well, in the previous episode sessions, we were talking about biases, and we talked about thankfulness. And one very common theme seems to be safety. If we can build safe spaces, so much more is possible compared to what we are experiencing today. And then that is the role of the leader. And I also do see the role of the team members, the associates, because as Chloe said, we have fun together. And there is always one, the other that can spark that. So we can and should require leaders, demand leaders that are bringing this safety into it, but we can also inspire the environment and transform it. And for me, fun has such a key central place into it. It's definitely an enabler. It's definitely the light that illuminates the room. I don't want to close this because I'm having so much fun with you. It's such a joyful conversation. And I'm thankful for your investment for bringing the insights and all these places we have visited in this last hour. I wanted, though, to give something still to the audience when they are thinking about integrating fun into their lives, into their work environment. What could be a one step or one hint, a tip that you could offer them to integrate fun into their daily lives?
I can go first. So
Go
if
ahead,
I could
Chloe.
encourage someone who, if I could encourage someone to start to start explore their creativity side a little bit more. My heart kind of burns for those who are still in their corporate roles. If they could start working into add into creativity into the world, and maybe start with their fantastic list. It doesn't have to be 10 things on your list. Maybe just note down 5 things that you have kind of like postponed dreams that you might have had. I mentioned my choir singing because that was a dream that I had had for so long. I wanted to sing in the choir. And then I did, and turns out it wasn't that fun to me. So just to be able to tick those things off our list is also kind of creates more energy. So create your fantastic list and take it from there. Don't overthink it.
Thank you, Josephine.
I'm turning 40 in December, and so I'm doing my 40 days of fun. So my list is 40 things, or I'm still working on it, but it's going to be 40 things long for next year. So my thing is work, rest, and play. And so what I'd suggest is at the beginning of each day or week or month or year, setting a priority for each of those for the day. So one thing that if you only get that one thing done at work today, you're going to feel like you've achieved what you needed to. One thing that you're going to do that's restful. So this is anything for your health. This is like going for a walk, having a bath, reading a book. It might be like making a delicious, healthy meal. So anything that's restful, that's probably on your own. And then something that's playful, but is most likely with other people. And so the idea is if you haven't got something for play that day or for rest, because we usually find the work part of it quite easy. We could put like 20 things on there. Then it forces you to think about it and think, okay, I'm going to phone that friend tonight, or I'm going to see if this person wants to come out for a drink, or I'm going to go to that dance class or whatever it might be. So for every chunk of time, so it might be for the day, the week, or the month, what are your 3 priorities, and giving them equal attention, and not putting all your focus on work and then trying to squeeze the others in around work, but actually giving them equal priority.
I absolutely love it. And I am very curious now to read this book, The Artist's Way, Josephine. I heard the recommendation and I'm taking it, and I see that it's supported by Chloe. So thank you very much. I would love then to also add this thought. Chloe, you said you're turning 40 and you have 40 items in your list. Isn't it so much fun to have birthdays then? Because every year that you have a birthday, you have one more fun thing that you're going to add to your year. I absolutely love. Now I want to be 70. It was such an inspiring and wonderful conversation. Thank you very much. I feel that people may be very willing now to connect with you. They may be inspired by you. They may be wanting to work with you. Chloe, how can people reach out to you and work with you?
So obviously I'm a big fan of LinkedIn. So Chloe Myers on LinkedIn. I'm also on Instagram, Chloe Myers Coach. And I have a Facebook group called Take Your Cape Off, which is all about like ditching that hero mentality and trying to swoop in and save everyone all the time and putting yourself first. And of course, my book. So you can get this on Amazon, Work Hard, Rest Hard, Play Hard by Chloe Myers.
Thank you so very much, Chloe. I would definitely recommend everybody to connect with you. Josephine, how can people work with you?
So as we are streaming this to LinkedIn, I think it's easiest to find me on LinkedIn. So just connect with me, send me a connection request. I'm super happy to be connected. And I'm actually doing a free training tonight, Central European time, and it's called LinkedIn Leads, because that is one of the things that I see that so many coaches and service providers struggle with, is to actually use LinkedIn for business purposes. And we don't do any sleazy DMs or anything like that. We don't do cold pitches, DMs. It's like authentic selling on LinkedIn. And one of my clients said actually yesterday, he said, I'm like the poster boy. It's like I was the perfect example how I became a client. We connected and here I am. And I did send DMs after when he started to connect with me. But before that, there were no sleazy DMs saying, "Oh, how is your LinkedIn journey going?" or anything like that. So that's not what we're doing. So I would love to connect with people and to share how I like to work with LinkedIn.
I can absolutely vouch for everything that you said, Josephine. And I must say, your DMs are some of the most insightful and warm. Whenever I am having a day and I see your name popping up there, I know I'm going to have some fun, and know I'm going to have some support. So I definitely recommend people to connect and work with you. Thank you so very much, both of you. I am absolutely delighted with this session that we have delivered today. And I'm wishing people to have loads more fun into their serious business. Hopefully they have seen how, thanks to both of you. And I will be wishing you all a great day ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Bye.
for having us. Thank you.